Good evening. I'm still at the office. I stopped by to do an episode with Ari Melber on the question of how Trump intends to look at tax returns and to, in my opinion, attempt to cripple the opposition from the Democratic Party. The other issue tonight I thought I'd make a couple of comments on, and it'll be too late when I get back home, so I thought I'd do it now. It is about John Bolton. I didn't have much use for his opinions, his policy opinions. And I don't know what the facts are of his case. But I have read the indictment, and the indictment seems to have several problems with it. It appears that they made special accommodations for him to have top secret material at his home in a SCIF, as they call it, which is to prevent, if you will, interloping curiosity that could compromise American assets. It also appears that he was using the material he had to prepare for a book. And one could criticize whether one should be spending their public service writing a book, but there are advantages to it, provided you're also doing your job at the same time. And the problem with how he was making notes for his book is apparently he was sharing it with two other people, and they may have been family members or others. That all said, the indictment recognizes that there was an agreement that had to do with the book and whether or not items that they've identified on the one hand as classified weren't permitted to be included in the book, or the book was permitted to be released if those items were not in the book. Yes, it sounds a little complicated, and the truth is often complicated, particularly when you're overreaching. In the case of vindictive and selective prosecution, you look for things like this, and I'll talk about it. I've talked about it before, but let me talk about it now. Selective prosecution is if I'm selecting you when other people are not being prosecuted. That's selective. So when Vice President Pence and former President Biden had conversations about material they were not prosecuted. One could argue with that, but it seems to be it was a bipartisan agreement that whatever they didn't amount to anything worth prosecution. On the other hand, in terms of special treatment, we have Trump, who had all sorts of classified documents, lied that he had classified documents. So there is a specialized kind of prosecution there, it seems to me. And now, in terms of vindictive, we have no doubt that it's vindictive because we have Trump running around saying he's no good, he's a criminal, and so on. So that's step one in analyzing his case. I'm a little upset that some of the commentators are thinking, this is kind of serious here. Well, an indictment normally doesn't have silly things in it. The question is, how true is it as a matter of fact and law? And is it something somebody should be prosecuted for? And those questions remain to be answered. And among the things I would ask about is exactly how was this calculated within the Justice Department? What did the Attorney General, what did the FBI head have to say about this? And what conversations did they have with Trump to cause this? The second thing is search warrants issued. I make it a practice, and a lot of defense attorneys do, to get a hold of the search warrants to confirm or deny that they really had probable cause. I've had some comments saying, a judge or a magistrate looked at it. Well, a judge or a magistrate is looking at one side of it and doesn't know if it contains errors or lies. And the standard is probable cause, not that they actually did it. So I don't know by what machination these search warrants issued or who and what is in them, but every search warrant has to have an affidavit or at least be sworn to in the presence of a magistrate or a judge. And I presume there's an affidavit here that lays out the case and the basis for going in. I'm not saying now that was a bogus search warrant, but it may have been, and until we see it, we won't know. I expect there will be motions having to do with discovery and other things, and there'll be fights over whether or not some of this stuff is classified. And while John Bolton is not my cup of tea, on the other side of it, given all the other circumstances, at least as to whether or not he committed a crime, I'm prepared to wait and see, both as a matter of process, which is outcome determinative when it comes to Trump, and in terms of content. What is the, quote, evidence that justifies this prosecution? I'm further encouraged that we'll have a good idea what that is, because Abbey Lowell, who was John Bolton's attorney, is, in my opinion, a very fine former Hill rat and, and outstanding defense attorney. We both went to Columbia. I think I have a couple of years on him. But and I shared some amount of time with him when he was on the Hill, and he was in charge of the Democrats' answer to whether or not there should be an impeachment of Bill Clinton. And our thinking at the time was no, because what he did may have been terrible, but it wasn't an impeachable offense. So I would wait and see what happened, and you have to look warily at any case that is created by the dictates of a man who has vengeance without limitations, and that's Trump. So that's what I have. Sorry it's a little short. Let me know what you think about it, if you saw it or heard it, what you thought about what I had to say about the question of Trump using the IRS to get at his enemies. All the best. Bye-bye.